Are you a business owner or manager who needs assistance increasing your profit margin and building a strong workforce? Well, now is the time to take advantage of our employer services. The Central Region Missouri Job Centers are ready to help. Available at no cost to you, we offer a variety of employer services, including job matching, consulting, work opportunity tax credits, on-the-job training, incumbent worker training, transition assistance, and more. You can get all the details at cwdregion.com/employer services. That's cwdregion.com/employer services, and we will share the link in the show notes for you. We look forward to assisting you with all your employer needs today. Now, let's get to today's episode. Welcome to the Workforce Link podcast, where we're offering forward-thinking conversations for the workforce, linking employers and job seekers to a brighter tomorrow. I'm your host, Sunday Jo Graham with the Central Workforce Development Region, and I'm glad to be back with you for another episode of the Workforce Link podcast today. We are diving into a topic today that I never get tired of talking about. Love this topic, transformation and leadership. I guess those are kind of two topics, but today we're going to put them into one. And if you're an employer who just desires to lead your team better, well, hang on tight for today's interview. If you're an employee who struggles to go to work every day because of the leadership, there are some nuggets in today's episode for you as well. And if you're a team member who loves your job, but you also have this desire to manage or lead others well, whether you're doing that in life or on the job, there is something for you today as well. And today we are talking with Dr. Julwell Kenney about bringing out the best in you from her book, How to Bring Out the Best in You, The Journey to Personal Transformation and Leadership. Dr. Kenney has been in the human resources industry for over 30 years. She's worked with the training and development arena for over 20 years. During her tenure, she's worked with organizations and individuals, teaching them how to change and then transform to grow and succeed personally and professionally. Dr. Kenney's empowering and motivating teaching style encourages participants to learn, embrace, adopt, and apply what they've learned daily. She reminds leaders that organizations do not change, people do. Therefore, it's imperative for leaders to learn and understand how to empower employees to transition from their current behavior to the future behavior of the organization's goals by investing in learning and development. Dr. Kenney is the dynamic CEO and president at JK Personal and Professional Development. And she goes by this title, which I love, and you'll see why in the interview. She goes by the title Transformation Doctor. I just love that. Doesn't that have a nice ring to it? So without further ado, let's dive into our challenging, humbling, and inspiring interview with Dr. Julwell Kenney. Julwell, thanks for being with us today on the Workforce Link podcast. We're happy that you're here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Yeah. I love your name, by the way. I love how you spell it.
Thank you. Thank you. That's the uniqueness.
Yes. From one unique name to the other, I completely understand.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, can you tell us, Julwell, today I want to talk about how to bring out the best in you. You've actually written a book about that called How to Bring Out the Best in You, The Journey to Personal Transformation and Leadership. And I think that's really a topic that we can never talk about enough. Transformation, leadership, how that goes together. So can you tell us a little bit just about your background, how you actually became interested in personal transformation and leadership?
Yes, I thank you so much, because over the years, I had a mentor when I was younger, and he always believed in me. And I had a little chance going back to school, and he kept pushing me to go back to school. And I ended up going back to school to complete my master's. And they had a course on leadership transformation, organizational leadership. So when I went to organizational leadership, the whole course was about leadership transformation. And I said, wow, it was so engaging and empowering, when I started hearing about it, because why? At that time, my mentor that was, he kept put me in some leadership positions. Because he kept telling me, Jewel, you can do it. You can do it. And I was like, I didn't want to do this. I'm like, are you kidding me? People are rude. Disrespectful. I didn't want to do this. And then then myself, I had to look at them like, what is going on? Who are you? So, and it takes a lot of work to be a leader. Leaders are made. They are not born. And my mentor kept telling me and kept speaking life into me and telling me, Jewel, this is what you got to do. This is what you shouldn't do. But, won't you go back to school and learn a little bit more about leaders, what leaders do? Because I kept asking him a lot of questions. So when I ended up going back to school to complete my master's in organizational leadership, that's when I fell in love with the whole training and development aspect of leadership and developing others and bringing out and learning that leaders, we all born with leadership characteristics within us. Okay, because as a child, we come out the womb what? Automatically telling our parents what we want them to do.
Right.
And we know, and as a baby, we automatically know how to influence them, to get them to do what we want them to do from the womb. So that shows that we were all born with leadership capabilities in us. Okay, so therefore, it's whether you're going to. So it's important that we take time to cultivate and nurture those capabilities into what leadership skills. But if you do not cultivate and nurture it, guess what? It lays dormant. So by me going through this whole through get my master's in leadership, organizational leadership, I did my thesis on leadership transformation. I received the A+ on it. And the school I went to was Mercy College, and they changed the whole curriculum based on my thesis.
Wow.
Yes, it was very empowering, it was awesome. And because why? And that's why I was able to write this book on how to bring out the best in you, because why? It takes a lot to be a leader. It's a lot of self-discipline. That's because why? And because leaders are always learning. So this is how I ended up coming. It's my passion in developing others. As you see, I went on and got my PhD in training and development, and performance improvement. Because why? Life challenges is going to put you into leadership, whether you want to or not. I don't care if you lead the dog, you lead the cat, you leading somebody.
That's true.
Number one
true.
thing you lead is yourself.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think too, I think we're all leaders, whether we know it or not. We're leading someone. We're either leading them closer to something better or not. But going back to what you said, how we cultivate that. If we want to be good leaders, we have to continue to cultivate and continue to learn. Otherwise, we might be leading people in the wrong direction.
But you may even be leading yourself in the wrong direction.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And I always say, before you can lead anyone, you have to lead yourself. You have to learn how to influence you, control you, empower you, inspire you, and motivate you.
So true. So true.
Now, it makes it a whole lot easier to inspire, influence, motivate, and empower others.
I love that. One of the things, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, but I'll go ahead and ask the question. So we have a lot of employers that listen to this podcast, and a lot of people, they might say, I'm just too busy. I'm too busy to learn how to lead better. I've just got to get people in here and get the job done. What would you say to that?
Well, first thing I would say, number one, it's more important to take time to work on you. You can never be too busy for you. Because when you're too busy for you, the job never gets done right. You seem to go on like what you call a crazy cycle. Okay. So therefore, I would tell them first, let's take care of you so that you can take care of the people that work with you. Okay. And for you. Otherwise, you will have a revolving door. So therefore, it's important when you invest in your employees will invest in you.
100%.
Yes. So it's important to take time. It's not about being busy. Okay. It's about right now, they say, I always say, ABCs, your attitude, behavior, and communication.
I love that. Well, you said something, I say this all the time. If you take care of your team's going to take care of you.
That's right. And that's why I tell leaders, stop being so busy. Okay. It's not about doing. It's about being first. When you be first, the doing automatically happen. And guess when it's done right. You know, I said
Yeah.
that's what leaders need to understand. Stop doing, start being. Stop doing a leadership. Be leadership.
I love that. Yeah. Do you think that there's a difference in managing people and leading people?
Definitely. Definitely. When you're managing someone, you're directing. You're directing. You're like an autocratic leader.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're telling, and you're not developing at all. But when you're leading, you're what? You're mentoring, you're coaching, you're influencing, and you're making an impact that someone can use for the rest of their life. And you'll never be forgotten for that.
Yeah.
When you're managing, you're directing, and you're controlling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. I think we don't talk about that enough. Not that necessarily, managing is a bad thing. There are jobs that we need management, but there's a difference in managing somebody and leading somebody. And I think it's so easy to get those two things confused, and we don't talk about it enough.
And that's why that's why a lot of companies have high turnover.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't take time to invest in what? Their leaders and their managers.
Mm-hmm.
The manager is just a title.
Yes.
Managing, okay, is an act.
I love that. Yeah, I love that.
And that's not taught.
Manager is just a title. Managing is an act. Love that.
Yes. And it depends on how you act will determine how you manage. So therefore, it's important for companies to invest in their training and development, in their leadership development, so that they create a culture, an employee-oriented culture, okay? Instead of a diverse, confusion, and autocratic culture.
Mm-hmm.
Because, who wants to work in a place where, you got, oh gosh, I got to go to work. I got to deal with this person again. That's the worst thing you ever want to do.
Yeah.
And you want to experience where people, where the place is highly stressed. But it comes from the top down.
100%.
So therefore, it's important. I worked in the HR industry for over 30 years. Okay. So I worked in almost every aspect within the HR industry arena. And I had to find my niche. And I found, like I said, my niche is in training and development. And now I am also a change management practitioner. And I work on the people side of change. Because organizations do not change, people do. So
yes. Organizations do not change, people do.
People do, yes. And I tell myself, someone said, "Oh, you got to trade that. You got to trademark that." I said, "Yeah, I am. I'm going to do that too." Because why? It's very important, because especially why right now with technology, organizations are changing by a second.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't move with change can move without you.
Yes.
So therefore, in order to stay on the competitive edge of your industry, it's imperative for organizations to invest in their leaders, okay, so that when change does happen, that they go through the change management process effectively, so that it will not affect their day-to-day operations. Again, but how do you do that? By developing and investing in your people, so they can embrace, adopt, and use the change.
Yes.
Not demand change.
Right. And it really does make a difference. I mean, you brought this up a little bit, but basically on whether you want to come to work or not. I mean, I've worked for organizations where I literally didn't want to get out of bed in the morning because of the leadership, because it was so toxic. And I was like, I don't want to go here one more day, but there are some of us out there. You got to do what you got to do. You can't just say, I don't want to go to work, but I'm in an organization now where, we experienced totally different. Our executive director is about pouring into us. She cares about, how we can do our job better. She listens, she pours into us, and it really does make a difference. Like, I'm happy to get up and go to work every day, not necessarily because of the organization, but because of the leadership. and it makes a huge, huge difference. And so that would, I would just encourage anybody listening to this today that, pay attention to the difference in managing and leading for sure. And learn how to invest in your people, because it makes a difference, a difference.
And when you invest in your people, you're investing in your organization.
Yes.
Okay. You're investing in your success.
Yes. And their success. Yeah.
Yes. And in their success.
Yeah.
Years ago, first thing they used to cut when they needed to cut back was what? Training. Okay. And development. And because of that, many companies suffered because they kept the wrong people, and they just made people do their job the best way they knew how without doing any personal development. So soft skills are essential to the success of any organization. You can have the hard skills. The hard skills get you the job. Soft skills allow you to keep the job.
Keep the job. I love that. Yeah, we talk a lot about hard skills and soft skills on this podcast, but I love that. Hard skills let you get the job. Soft skills help you keep the job. Love that.
Yes. So I do a lot. Like I said, this is, as you can see, Joe, this is like my passion. And I enjoy, like I said, and that's why I do, focus on training. And I encourage in the organizations, if you're going to invest in your employees, you take them to a training. Let me say this: training is not the answer for every situation. A lot of times, some managers, some leaders, they just want go to training. No, you have to let's get to the root cause of the problem. Maybe it's not a good job fit. In order for you to bring out the best in you, to bring out the best in your employees, you have to do a diagnose. Okay, why is there such resistance? Okay, why is it? Where is the challenge coming from? And sending them a training may not be the issue. Again, it may not be a good job fit. Maybe sometimes there's other things going on. There's maybe personal things going on. Okay, so therefore it's important, very important, that managers take some time and to what's going on? Why isn't this employee delivering or achieving their performance? And maybe, like I say, the people may not be good for them. They just may not be good fit for the department. Or maybe look, instead of doing like I said, instead of doing change management, let me just do instructional design. I'm good at that. Let me just sit behind a computer. I don't want to be in front of training people. I don't want to facilitate.
Yeah, find what people are great at and then pour into that.
That's it. That's it. Instead of, this is what you said I have to do, so I'm going to do it. Yeah. And then it will affect your whole department. It really will. So what's important is that understanding who you are and where you're at. I just taught a class yesterday on imposter syndrome. They did that corporation. Because why? So many people have that mask on. And, some feel like they don't belong, but they're good. They're excellent at what they do. And they feel some people are perfectionists, and you have to know, when to use what skills and personality, and communication and attitude. It's very important that you know that, but you got to know you, but be real with you.
Yeah. And you never stop learning that. That's part of that learning.
Never stop learning. And I have a saying also too, like I said, I do change management. You never stop learning until the day you can't learn anymore.
That's right. That's right. What would you say for an organization that says, okay, I want to do better. I want to pour into my people better. I don't want to just manage them. I want to lead them. Where would they start? What kind of training do you think that they could offer their team?
Well, first thing I would do, the manager that says that, I said, let's see where you're at first. Because when they have a problem, who are they going to go to?
Their leader, their manager, yeah.
You want them to come to you.
Yeah.
So you get you together first. You learn how to lead. Understand your leadership skills, understand your leadership abilities, understand your leadership communication, understand your leadership attitude, your leadership behavior. And when you understand that and understand and get it 360, It's okay. It's always good to get feedback from the people who work with you and work
Hmm.
for you. Because the way you see yourself, others may see yourself different.
Hmm. Well, and that's humility. And I I can't speak for everybody, but I can definitely speak for myself. Humility in a leader draws me to them.
Yes, yes. And openness,
Hmm.
you know, openness, being open, being real. You know,
Hmm.
as a leader, you have to understand you're not supposed to have all the answers.
Right.
And if you feel you're supposed to have it, that's where a lot of leaders fail. If you have all the answers, then what do you need the people for?
Hmm.
Okay,
Right. Because you can just do it all, right?
exactly. And there's no diversity. Okay, there's no what do you call it? There's no creativity. There's
Yeah.
no innovation.
Yeah.
So therefore, as a leader, the best thing is to do what I would tell them: work on you. Then after you work on you, then guess what? Guess that now. Let me send you to a class that I took that really helped me. Let me get a coach. And I encourage, after you take training, I encourage leaders, at least get your employee a coach for
Hmm.
3 to 6 months to
Hmm.
teach them how to apply what they learned.
Hmm.
Everyone that, believe it or not, everyone, uh, 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 they don't know how to do that. They don't know how to apply what they learned.
Hmm.
You know, they go there. Okay, I got to be here. This is why when I do my training, very interactive, and to make sure they listen to what I'm asking. After I finish the one module, okay, tell me 1 or 2 points that you learned.
Love that. Or that they're not falling asleep after lunch because they're just
That's
marking
right.
another training off of their list. Yeah.
There you go. Exactly. Because now you're making them, oh, okay, I'm going to be quizzed on this. So
Hmm.
now I got to apply what I'm learning. So I got to make sure I'm learning this. I make sure I'm listening,
Yeah.
But I tell leaders, give them a coach. Be fair. At least 36 months. Again, another investment, And because you invested in me, I want to be dedicated to you, to dedicate to the organization. Because sometimes it's not even about the money. It's about feeling value.
Right. And which goes back to we work for people, not organizations.
There you
We
go.
we quit people, not organizations.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. It's very
Going back going back to the personal transformation for a minute, how can people stay motivated and committed to their personal transformation, like over the long term?
yes. Great question. And because like that's why now I am a transformation doctor. One thing
I love that. Do you put
yeah,
that on your title, Transformation Doctor?
yeah,
Need a
transformation
t-shirt.
doctor. Yes, I have it on my website and all.
Love it.
I used to be I'm a professional development doctor, but I said no. And everyone kept telling me, you are so transformational. You are so empowering. You're so motivated. And that's empowering itself by people telling you that.
Right.
So that's why I said, you know what? I said, so I changed my title to transformation doctor.
Love
And
it.
that's expertise and I've been helping people do for I don't know how many years. So what people can do is to continue to educate yourself. Again, never stop improving on you.
Hmm.
Every day, what I do myself, I'm always transforming. And I tell everyone, and I'm always aware. Who's Jewel? What does Jewel have to do? Now, I'm dealing with Jewel. I said, now there's a difference. There's a Dr. Jewel. There's this Jewel, the wife, Jewel, sister, Jewel, mother, and Jewel pastors is all different type, but I understand that there's certain things that I need to do for me so that I can be real with who? With me.
Yeah.
And now what I always do, pick up a book. Pick up a book. Okay, let me see what I can learn. I don't know everything. So people say, well, you got a PhD, you got two, and I do have 2 PhDs. And well, you should know it. No, I have my PhD, those are specialties in certain areas.
Hmm.
But I still need to work on who? Me. I said there's 3 parts to a person. You have a spiritual part, you have a personal part, and you have a professional part. I said, so therefore, I do things to help me spiritually. I do things to help me personally. I do things to help me professionally. And I feed all three parts. And I try to do that every day. You know? Okay, so yes, I do. I pick up the Bible and say, okay, God, who do you say I am? Who I am? Because why you created me. Then I go and say, okay, personally, let me go get a motivational book and learn about my emotions. And I'm teaching lessons on what? Emotional intelligence. So I'll go back to some of my things that I've written and I've thought about. Because a lot of times when you write things, you forget about it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's easy to do.
And practice what you teach and preach.
Well, I think one of the best ways to learn is by teaching it, because you're saying it out loud, you're having to teach it, you're having to go over it. There's repetition and you're like, oh, wow, I just learned something out of this myself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I go get other authors, that I know and learn something from them, That's the thing and this is how you can keep that transformation going. And then I do a self-assessment. Assessments are great. A lot of people don't like to do that because why? They find out something about themselves. They're like, oh, I didn't know that.
Right.
I said, I'm teaching the class on imposter syndrome. And when I began to read and learn about imposter syndrome, I'm like, wait a minute. Because they said people with multiple degrees, a lot of they have imposter syndrome. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. I had to scratch my head. I had to be real with me. I said, wait a minute. And I began to see certain things about myself. I was like, wow. I was so enlightened, And then I said, well, okay, now how can I overcome this? And as I began to learn, guess what? I began to working on what? Overcoming it. And because now I have what? Awareness.
Yeah. I mean, and that goes back to the humility, right? We can't do a self-assessment if we're not humble enough to say, there's things I need to learn. There's things I need to do. And I think that's one of the greatest character qualities of a person is humility and teachability.
And teachability. And that's how you start leading you. Then you can lead others. Then you can speak life into others.
Right.
And that's where it comes to the transformation start. You have to always work on you first. And this is how you keep that transformation going. So what you messed up, you're human. Our job is not, and I always teach this and tell leaders, CEOs, it's not about perfection. It's about progress. Stop trying to be perfect. You're human.
Yes. Yeah. I hate that quote that says practice makes perfect. I think it's so dumb because it doesn't make perfect. Practice makes progress. I tell this to my little nephew all the time. I'm like, he's in gymnastics and I'm like, way to go. What did you do today? What did you do that was great today? So he'll tell me and then I'll say, okay, what did you do that you need to work on today? And I always follow that up with, hey, great job. Practice makes progress. But we've grown up being taught that.
Yes.
It's perfection. No, it's not. The world teaches us to strive for perfection. And if we could get away with that, get away from that for a minute, that would change the way we lead. That would change the way we live our lives. That would change the way we transform our lives. All the things.
It would change the way we even think because now you realize you don't have to compare yourself to anyone else.
Yes.
That's another thing about leadership.
Yes.
And bringing out the best in you.
Yes, love that.
Not comparing yourself, especially with social media.
That's a whole nother podcast interview right there.
You see the glory, but you don't know the story.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
So I like to have these little quotes so people can keep these things in their mind, to just remind, okay. And I always say individuals, remember, it's your time, it's your turn, it's your season. To work on who? You. To develop what? You. Bring out the best of you. And when you do that, it can be, it's contagious. And the only ones that won't embrace it are those that have that self-doubt, those that are insecure. Somebody being around somebody like somebody like me or you, if they have self-doubt or they're insecure, we would get on their nerves. Because why you got to be so happy? Why you got to be so positive? Because of these insecurities that they have, and that's why I say, take the mask off, learn you, love you, appreciate you. And when you do that, guess what? It will Everything else will fall into place
Mm-hmm.
because you realize, you know, you're valuable to any organization.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, sometimes we get this idea that we have to wait for that insecurity to go away before we go into that next step. And I don't know about you, just speaking for myself, but I step into a lot of things insecure. Do it afraid. I say it all the time. Do it afraid. Because if we waited until we weren't insecure or not afraid, we would never move. We would never take that next right step.
That means you're stepping outside your comfort zone.
That's right.
So when you step outside your comfort zone, that means you're growing.
Yeah.
When you're insecure, that means you're allowing yourself to grow. Okay? And like I tell everyone, you know, you don't ever fail. We don't ever fail. We learn.
Mm-hmm.
And I use Thomas Edison for an example. And I tell this to leaders. Oh, I don't want to fail at this. I got to make this look good. I said, hold on. Thomas Edison never failed. Okay? He realized there was 1,000 ways that he learned that the light bulb wouldn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Then, because he never gave up, he found one way that the light bulb it did. As a result, we're reaping the benefits.
Mm-hmm.
That one way.
Mm. And that's so powerful. Going back to what you just said, reaping the benefits. We have the opportunity as leaders to change the generations.
That's right.
And, you know, we might not always see the fruit of that, but a lot of times we will. And if we really grasp that we have the ability to change the generations with our leadership, that changes everything.
Yes. And people say the sky's the limit. No, I know the sky's not the limit. You know, there are no limits. Okay? There are no limits. And we have to understand that. We limit ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We limit others because of what our thinking. So our job is to, instead of allowing our mind to control it, we have to control our mind.
Yes.
Everything, transformation starts where? In the mind. Okay? I gave it the 5 H's. Okay? Transformation starts in the head. Because once it's in your head, it gets into your what? Your heart. And once it gets into your heart, that's when they start connecting. You start believing. What your head, you know, your mind is telling your head start believing. Then when you get to your heart, guess what? It gets into your hands. And you start doing it. You start making it happen. Because now you believe it, good or bad. But especially with good, but and then either when you get into your hands, guess what? You start making it what? You're gonna reach a habit.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're gonna reach a harbor. Which one is it? So you have to think the transformation. I'm gonna transfer my thinking to think positive. Let me turn that positive into a negative. Because behind every dark cloud, there's a bright sun shining. So even when you're in business and you're having a hard time figuring something out, or you're dealing with something difficult in the organization, you know, let me think about this. If I flip the script, or if I, think about this more in a positive tone than in the negative tone of what I'm experiencing. Okay, and start implementing. So that's your head, your heart, your hands, your hands. Then become the habit. Then you reap the what? The harvest.
I love that. The 5 H's. I got to write that down.
Yes.
So the 5 H's.
It's important because why? And it's like I said, and another thing to remember, because then once you get in another way I explain it, gets into your mind. Okay, then it gets into your what? You have to bring it to fruition. You have to see it happening. Once it gets in your mind, you got to see it happening. And once you see it happening, then guess what you have to do? Start speaking it.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you start speaking it, and you make it happen, and then when you start speaking it, you start acting on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then what? It happens. It comes to fruition. And I tell everyone, I said, going through, and I learned that through what? Put myself through the school, completing my PhDs. Let me explain. It looked impossible. And if they only knew my background and how the struggle I had, people tell me I would never do, but I did because what I saw, and I believed in me and who God made me to be. I don't care what anyone said. And when I did it, people was like, I can't believe you did that. Because you were supposed to have this issue. You're supposed to have this learning disability. You're supposed to have that. People label you.
Mm-hmm.
And in organizations, they do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Our job as leaders Take the labels off of people. Take the labels off your direct reports. Okay? Give them an opportunity and let them know you believe in them and watch them blow your mind.
Love that. That gives me goosebumps. Wow. Well, man, I don't know what else there is to cover today that we haven't already. There's so much to think about. I'm gonna have to go back and write down all these quotes that you shared today because they were so good. Before we close today, Jewel, is there anything that you want to share that we haven't talked about?
Well, I would definitely like to let everyone know I am starting online YouTube. It's called Bold and Brave TV. I come on every Friday at 6 p.m. Bold and Brave TV on YouTube with the organization, and it's called Bold and Brave TV. And the name of my show is Let's Talk About That with Dr. Jewel. Let's talk about that with Dr. Jewel every Friday.
Okay.
At 6 p.m. And also, please feel free to listen to my podcast every at Dr. Jewel. Know your self-worth.
Okay. And we will share the link to all of that in the show notes for our listeners so they can go back and find you easily. And then how do people find you on your website?
Yes, you can go to drjulwelkenney.com.
Okay.
DrJulwelkenney.com. Please feel free to visit me there anytime.
Perfect. And we will share the link to that in the show notes. Well, Dr. Jewel, thank you for being with us today. We're so grateful to have your wisdom, learn about leadership. There's so much packed into this episode. I'm going to need to go back and listen just for myself. So I know if I'm going to get something out of it, our listeners definitely are. So I appreciate it.
Amen. Well, thank you so much and allow me to be on your show. I really appreciate this opportunity to share about leadership with your listeners.
I told you that interview was going to be challenging, humbling, and inspiring. And if not for you, it was for me anyway. I need to go back and actually listen again and write down all of those amazing quotes that she shared because there were so many good nuggets in that interview. You can find more information on Dr. Jewel at drjulwelkenney.com, and I will share the link in the show notes for you, as well as the link to her book, How to Bring Out the Best in You. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, would you mind sharing it with somebody else that you think could benefit? We would be grateful. And don't forget to take advantage of our Job Center services available to you at no cost. You can find your nearest Job Center or affiliate site today at cwdregion.com/jobcenters. And again, I will share the link to that in the show notes for you. Have a great week, and we will meet again in the next episode. Until then, remember this: there's always a brighter tomorrow if you're willing to find it. The Central Region Workforce Development Board Incorporated and COPIC are equal opportunity employers and programs. Auxiliary aids and services are available upon request to individuals with disabilities. Missouri Relay Services at 711.